following presentation is brought to you in part by the Newaza Challenge. Sub only, because nothing else matters.
Hey, what's up, Around the Mat fans? It's good to see you guys, too. I know, it's been far too long since we've seen you last, but we are excited to bring this very new installment of Around the Mat to you guys. This is a really cool episode that we did with our good friends from Polaris Pro, who put on a spectacular event back in January. So we talk a little bit about our favorite moments, then we talk with two of the guys responsible for putting it together, Matt and Cal, and then we ask them a little bit about some of the complications they faced in putting together Polaris Pro, and what they may have in store for us for the very next installment, which by now we know is coming up in this fall. And we show you some of the footage in case you didn't see it, or maybe you just forgot. We've also got a few surprises here and there throughout this episode, but yeah, we've missed you guys, and we can't wait for you to watch this episode. So sit tight and check out this new installment of Around the Mat.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to your favorite show about Jiu Jitsu. Give it up for Around the Mat. Is that enough? Was that good?
Woo! Yeah, that was good.
It
lacked like the hair darkness on your face, but I thought you nailed the accent.
Here's the thing, though. I'm reclaiming this because he was just stealing the look of Kevin Smith, obviously with some influences of The Undertaker and Oddjob as well from James Bond. However, welcome back to a very special edition of Around the Mat. We are here to talk about a very, very cool edition of a jiu-jitsu event that took place in some foreign land. I don't really know where it is, but these guys are going to help us figure it out. Here to talk about Polaris with me today, we have our friend and sometimes Che Guevara stunt double, Paul Moran. Paul from Open Mat Radio. How are you doing today, man?
Very good, comrades. How are you?
You definitely look like Che the early years. Tell me about that movie role, and what did you learn most from it?
I learned to not get into interviews that you have to moderate.
Well, that was a dumb choice because you're here right now. But it's good to have you back, Paul.
Yes, excellent to be here.
Also joining us today, we have John Evans from BJJ Breakdown.com. John, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
John, I have an important question for you. Why the files in the background?
It's just to keep track of all these crazy moves that everyone's finishing people with in Polaris and other recent tournaments.
A lot of people talk about digital libraries, but you, my friend, keep it old school. Like, literally card catalog old school.
Yeah, I'm a hipster. You know, I type them out on my old typewriter and then, just catalog them and Dewey Decimal. It works.
I presumed he was doing an Aaron Brockovich thing. He was just trying to like keep his home office, like a sketch jiu-jitsu thing. Just next.
I guess that leads us to our other panelist, who also is doing his stunt double work as Bounty, the paper towel spokesperson. However, the before, definitely not the after.
This is still during his pumping up phase. I'm doing fantastic, though I will say with the Polaris Pro, I was super bummed when no one rode in on a Polaris like dirt bike. I thought that was going to be like a thing. I was ready for four-wheelers to be given away for match wins, but I quickly learned I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's because you haven't been properly prepped. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are getting to the part of the show where we talk about what happened at Polaris. Let me hear you. Do you think this guy's going to come kick my ass? Like, I don't...
Oh, for sure. Probably Kevin Smith would, too, if he weren't a pussy. But for sure, the Polaris guy is, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, guys, let's get straight to it. There were a lot of things that happened at Polaris, but here, to talk about it, we have these three very, very capable people in Jiu-Jitsu who are going to walk us through some of the really fun stuff. We actually broke down our favorite parts into what we like to call a top 5. Let's go and cue music for top 5.
Can I apologize officially for using the P word so early? I've been drinking. I gotta stop. I gotta just stay focused.
That's true.
Eyes on the prize, Kevin. And we're back. All right, leading us up with number 5 on our list of top 5 favorite things from Polaris, we have Kevin Phillips. Kevin, lead us off on this.
The women's match. This seems like the most obvious of the amazements of the Polaris Pro. We've been talking about it since we first saw Nicolini and Dern fight Metamoris. I am so shocked it took this long for a major submission-only event to really embrace it, but they seem like they were like, yeah, first of all, that's a priority. We're going to keep doing it, which I love, and it was an amazing, amazing match.
I mean, Michelle Nicolini is one of my favorite grapplers, male or female. She always goes out for the kill. She rips people's arms off, rips people's knees up. I mean, she's a submission machine, really, and one of the other things that I really appreciated from Polaris, a thumbs up to them, is they treated the women equal to the men and didn't try to, have them in bikinis in their preview video and all that kind of stuff. So seeing how professional they treated the ladies, I was very, very stoked. And then, of course, Angelica it was a rematch for her. She'd been beaten before, and I thought that she came back extremely tough, going up against arguably the best female grappler in the world.
Yeah, I mean, like Paul said, Nicolini, one of my favorite competitors, just male or female. She's just awesome. Always exciting to watch. Amazing technique, and it's just, it's going to be fireworks if she's in a fight. I don't think I've ever seen a boring fight with her in it. She's just always going for it, and incredible. It's always exciting. Even if she loses, it's amazing. So awesome to see her in a fight, and it was really curious for me. Like, I was really surprised to see Angelica Galvão, because she did win Brown Belt Worlds, and then I think she won Purple Belt Worlds the year before. And she is, is on fire, but she is still a new black belt. And Michelle Nicolini she's been around for a long time. She's a veteran. She has beaten all the top of black belts. So, I was a little bit worried for Angelica, but she did well. I think, if memory serves me right, it was either a sweep or a guard pass, or maybe both. And it was, Nicolini was in danger for a minute. And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, is she going to actually beat her in this?
Don't worry. Nicolini also had that look on her face that was like, did you just sweep and pass me? Do you know who the fuck I am? Shit's about to get real. That's the thing I take away from that match is the first two matches of the show was a little looser in the pace, but the women definitely made it seem like we had an event on our hands. And I think it's a huge credit, and we'll hopefully find out a little bit more when we talk with some of the folks from Polaris a little bit later in this installment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was surprised going into this that some people were picking Angelica, not to discredit her by any means, but because they were saying that Michelle was training a lot of MMA, would her gi game be on point? It's Michelle Nicolini. Her gi game is going to be on point.
I forgot how to use this. What? All this made me forget what I do with this.
Yeah. She picked it up quite well. if there was any lag, she didn't seem to have any problems.
Just throwing this out there. Do you guys have any female matches that you'd like to see over at Polaris?
Yeah. I want to see Chelsea Bainbridge-Donner versus Mackenzie Dern.
I know Chelsea would do it in a heartbeat, so that's not even an issue. Let's go ahead and transition to our number 4 favorite moment from Polaris, and we're going to have Paul Moran tell us about that.
I guess it's not so much a moment as a general theme, and just how professional the entire card came out. For an inaugural event, this was really, really well done. I've seen many other events try to, kick off, and either they do it with not as many stars and kind of ease into it, or they do it big, but then there's technical problems. So from the top to the bottom, I was really impressed with everything. Commentating, I got to give it up to my buddy Nick for doing an awesome job on that. And
oh, I'm sorry. Were you referring to me?
Nick, is that you?
Oh, most definitely. Have any of you done the ayahuasca plant?
The only thing that I love more than doing the Journey podcast with Paul and Nick is listening to Raph do his kind of impersonation of Nick's very muddled accent.
Paul, this is Nick on Quaaludes. And
hey, you can't grow Quaaludes. I doubt Nick would ever do one.
That's true. If we are being very serious,
We've never
I liked that he was explaining so many of the concepts in a very fluid way.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to do because The hardest thing about any kind of broadcast in that respect is knowing when to let jiu-jitsu happen and let it breathe, and knowing when to step in and actually start explaining the concepts. And I thought it was a nice variation between explaining what's happening and also a little bit of concept, and then just saying, all right, I'm going to let the match go. So our compliments to Nick, or should I say, me. Yeah. All right, John, tell me about your expectations coming into Polaris. Did you even know this event was happening?
I actually didn't know that it was happening. That was one of the things I think I said to you initially when you're like, "Oh, are you going to watch the Polaris match?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever that is." I just didn't see anything about it. I don't know if kids these days are on the YouTubes and the Facebooks all day long, just spamming it out. But if that's the only place that they're putting it out there, like, you know, sometimes I don't get to check those.
You're blaming the social media lack of presence.
I'm blaming
So
it.
what were your expectations not knowing that this event was happening?
I just had no idea what to think of it, like what kind of money they have backing them, because, I mean, first events are pretty rough usually, just in terms of production, although there's actually pretty good for a first event, really. And just it's just a lot of money. You're probably not going to make a ton of money. Yeah, you're probably going to lose money, honestly, but definitely a lot bigger and better than what I thought it was going to be.
Excellent. Kevin, for you, what were some of the more impressive aspects of the production and the whole first-time experience of Polaris for you?
The stream worked. The stream worked the entire time. The feed never fainted once. I could hear the broadcasters. I didn't get any point where there was those like record scratch interruptions, like when you accidentally left the CD in like the wrong part of your car and you put it in, and it's like all around the world. That always happens with the different BJJ streams. This one didn't have that problem at all, and I thought the commentators did a pretty good job. I could listen to Nick Gregory Artist talk about Kit Dale for another 37 minutes, though. I thought that was like those two are clearly very close.
I wouldn't mind speaking for another 30 minutes.
I do like that you're doing this caricature. It's like he was obviously talking mostly about jiu-jitsu, but there was just I was impressed by it. And apparently, they were paying attention to the fans, because when the fans demanded, the shoes come off. Shoes came off.
I want to take a moment to address that, I guess. You know it's bad when the least professional moment of the entire telecast is when your announcer/commentator steps onto the mat to conduct an interview in shoes. I'm going to repeat that again, as if I didn't say it the right way.
Cue in a dun dun dun.
Your announcer stepped on a mat with shoes.
Dun dun dun.
I will say, Kev, in the same vein, I put up a post on BJJ Reddit myself that somebody said, "What are your expectations for Polaris?" And I said, "The stream will be weak." And you know what? Nobody came to eat their words more than me. And it was more of a precaution because we're used to having terrible streams.
I was with you, too. I'd like to be like, I told you, but I was just like, oh, no shit, right? Can't wait for this to not work. Like, I was such a jaded A about it.
But I love that on BJJ Reddit, people immediately came to the rescue of this and were like, I think it'll be good. And I go, well, I'm hoping it'll be good, but I'm just ready to make fun of it. I think that'll exhaust us on that one. John, why don't you go ahead and tell us what our third favorite moment or thing was from Polaris?
They brought us in with a lot of really high-profile fighters that everyone knows, but then they also had some of the European fighters that maybe not everyone knows, like Dara O'Connor. Yeah. Some of them big names, apparently, in European grappling, and some good grapplers, too. But it was cool because you get to see them, and maybe they can't make it over here and fight in the Worlds, or they're not popular in America yet. So we get a little bit of exposure to their games, and we also get to see how they do against some of the other more known competitors. So thought it was cool.
Paul, were you as familiar with any of these participants, or did you have to spend time on Wikipedia like the rest of us?
I didn't know much about Mr. Rios, but anybody that steps up to take a fight with Pablo Popovich on short notice gets mad props from me. Not that that's worth much, but Ali Geddes is a friend, and Ali, I think, is one of the most technical black belts out there, and his understanding of the game is just amazing. If you ever get a private with him or anything, go for it, because he's awesome. And to take a fight with AJ, even though AJ's beaten him multiple times before, I thought was props to Ali for jumping on that and supporting the card. Max Campos, I've heard of him before. I haven't ever seen him roll, though, so it was cool to get to see him. He's kind of like a big name in the European scene, but I've never seen him roll, so I was kind of happy to see that.
First of all, I enjoyed that they did highlight some of their countrymen. I think that's a really cool thing. And whenever I watch the Brasieros, I'm always impressed because you see 2 or 3 people or 15 people that you're like, where the fuck did that guy come from? Like, where has he been my entire life? Why am I not seeing him at Metamoris? And it is because, jiu-jitsu attracts a lot of people that don't always have the resource or the backing or necessarily the notoriety. Notability is what we're going to stick with. Notoriety.
Notability sounds more like it should be a word, so I guess that
That's
counts.
a few Heinekens
Absolutely.
in, so.
I have a master's degree, and I don't know how to talk. They'll just give them away, apparently.
In communication, no less, too.
I wasn't going to name what it was, so maybe people are like, maybe it's in mathematics. Well, fuck it.
You brought up the master's degree. I was like, well, they probably want to know in what, because it's definitely not engineering. Let's tell you that.
I just assumed his name wasn't on it, that he physically had someone else's master's degree.
I took it from a friend. He's very smart, but he's not very strong. It was easy to take.
I guess going forward, you'd like to see this continue if they do another version of Polaris. Would you like to see them highlight more people that we
For sure.
Okay.
O'Connell looked like a badass. Like, I had never seen...
cool.
I heard of Max Campos. I think most people had heard of Max Campos. Like, maybe don't get to see him fight that often, but we knew the name. I had never seen or heard of Darrell O'Connell, and it was just like, oh my god, I want to watch more of these guys fight. This guy's fights. He's a fucking beast. A beast.
Well, Darrow was in the He Who Shall Not Be Named Kumite, and he did really well. I believe he might have actually beat Gary in that tournament.
He
I could be wrong.
Everyone, gi and no gi. It was sick.
Yeah. He's sick, and he's been training with a lot with Lovato and Saulo and Shanji, that kind of Hibero Jiu-Jitsu crew. So when he comes to the States, I know he kind of does a tour down through Oklahoma and then goes out to L.A. But he's a real threat and an exciting grappler, and you could see the passion that he had, friggin' running back to the mat. He was getting pissed off at the long belt ties. Like, he's a game competitor, so I'd love to see him back.
Belt ties. Some long belt ties for a seasoned guy. It's like I've seen lazy brown belts get tied even faster than that, even when they're just a little bored. Like, that was pretty lazy. It was pretty lackadaisical.
I will say, though, that in itself, the long belt tie definitely did highlight the kind of match you would see between me and Kevin if we were ever in this kind of high-profile match.
For sure. Yeah.
It'd be a lot of, like, tying our belts, but still, like, shit-talking the other. Like,
Just looking angry, like, fuck that guy.
you would take that long to fucking tie your belt.
Fight him more, but I gotta tie my belt
As
first.
soon as you wait, it is so... Is it the rabbit where you do this?
Well, hold on. Are you looping yours?
I'm looping.
Are we tying it the same?
Yeah, you gotta loop.
Because I don't want to, like, fight you if we're not.
It's gotta be uniform.
Are they supposed to be touching? Could someone clear this up? Like, is Paul Moran from Open Mat Radio available for a phone a friend? So I just want to call him, ask him a quick 2-question about the belt tying, and then we can get back to this fight. That's roughly how it would look if we got into.
Should I do my Paul Moran impression too?
Oh, please do.
Do we have time for a 32-minute monologue?
No, we don't have time right now.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
But let's go ahead and go to our second favorite, which Kevin is going to talk to us about because he's been doing so well with the English language so far.
Number 2, we wrote down superstar balance. And what we mean is, and you've heard us talk about some of the names, old school versus new school superstars. And you're seeing this more and more now that we kind of have this almost like senior
Keep going. This is magic to my ears.
senior PGA type crew. This was awesome. Like, we got to see Mike Fowler. We got to see Pablo Popovich, like there were some great names that have been around a long time in jiu-jitsu. Dean Lister, to name another one. Yet we also got to see Gary fight. We got to see AJ fight. We got to see Keenan fight. We also got to see Nicolini fight. We got to see people in their prime fighting, and we also got to see some. So I just really was impressed by the diversity of who we got to see fight.
What would you say about the new guard, Paul? Like, what do you think are the emerging traits of those people who are taking the gauntlet, like your Keenans and your Garys, and are just running with the game right now? How are they affecting change, or how are they influencing things right now?
I think that if you look at the evolution of jiu-jitsu over time, if you go way old school in the 70s and 80s, they were submission focused and points were kind of an afterthought. Like points would come if you were trying to submit someone, right? And then we entered the age of where things became more sportified, to make up another word. And it was people that could game kind of the system of, I can score an advantage here or a point here and win point fighting. Today we have more and more submission only events. So guys like Gary and Keenan, I think are put in situations that the submission is the focus and points don't matter. So if you get swept, who cares? Like Gary will let you throw him into a horrible position where you feel safe, and then he'll rip your knee apart. The trend of submission only is really cool because like a lot of people will try to go back and score these like, well, if we scored it by IBJJF rules, someone else won. Well, yeah, and if you were scoring it by that way, they probably wouldn't have let themselves get swept either. That's one of the things is that the matches look different. So the younger competitors that are coming up with more opportunities to do submission only, I think they formulate their game differently.
I'm genuinely interested to hear everybody's opinions on this, but I'll start with you, John. Are you scoring it as it's happening? Even though it doesn't matter, are you still at home doing points for them just as a spectator? And does that matter?
It does matter. It's actually part of my whole spiel about like how no one's figured out the perfect tournament yet, and there are pros and cons to different types of tournaments. And I love submission-only tournaments. Like this tournament is really exciting, and I think it's, in a way, it's the purest form of jiu-jitsu, where you're just going just for submission. But the points, even though I hate to see people like stalling and trying to just, I've got one advantage, I'm just gonna try to hold on to this and win by this. Like I think that's a bunch of crap. But also, you have to say too, people talk about like, well, Helio would have wanted it a certain way, where the guy gets, finally gets armbarred at the end of like a 2-hour match or whatever. But also, Helio would not want to be mounted like 18 times or whatever in the process, right? Because if there are punches and kicks involved, like you're just going to be getting your face turned to hamburgers.
I think that it's such a different strategy. Now, what I do look at is, who's being more aggressive, who's getting the dominant positions, but not necessarily point-based.
Okay, and Kevin, is there a definitive winner or loser whenever we get a draw? Just in your own perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say about 80% of the time it looks like there's a clear winner. Like, I don't think you would have heard anyone say that Dairo Okano didn't win the match. I think he did. I think 2 more minutes would have proven he would have. But I just like to get back to your question, I would never be able to score these matches at home because I don't have an advanced degree in Portuguese or an IBJJF rep sitting next to me.
Actually, you do. That's a lie.
Yeah. You should ask my instructor how great I am at scoring them. I'm always like, was that 2 points? He's like, no. Like, was that 3 points? It's like, no. It's like, okay, well, good. Then I'll just fuck off.
What I'd like to see is for every 2 points you get, you get 1 strike. So if you're in close guard and you're up 4 points, go ahead. Two strong punches to open up that guard. It'd make it exciting.
Don't ever roll with Paul Moran. You might get stabbed because you might have acclimated enough points. The Paul goes, nope, now you get stabbed. Everybody knows.
That's at 12. You think that those are mouthguard pockets and gis? They're for shivs.
All right, that's very cool. Did anybody have any last thoughts on old school and new school?
I just want to say that I'm happy to see Mike Fowler come back. Mike's gone through a lot of crazy things over the past few years. He just did his huge pilgrimage through Japan. So to see him return to the competition, Matt, even though he's not a regular competitor, was something that I was, from a fan perspective, really happy to see.
And super cool to see Kit Dale come out of retirement and fight. That was awesome.
I don't think he's retired.
That was just the beard, Kev. That got retired.
Oh, thank you. Oh God, that's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Just because he shaved and then I just assumed he was done. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Well, that's as good a moment and a transition as any. Paul, why don't you go ahead and tell us our definitive favorite moment from Polaris?
The fact that there were submissions in a submission event. We saw quite a few, and they're all over the place. I think that, AJ's was really impressive. Michele, obviously. Gary heel hooking, someone that's supposed to be an expert in leg locks and an MMA fighter. I was talking to Gary ahead of time, like, hey, Gary, you going to go out and just try to, guillotine this guy because everyone's expecting a footlock battle? He's like, no, I'm going after feet. He was dead set on going my skill set against his skill set, and he wanted to make a point. That's and awesome. I think the point was made.
I'm sorry. Did I detect a Gary Tonin impression?
I think I was just channeling his enthusiasm.
You had the intensity down, I'll give you that.
And then how do we not talk about Keenan's triangle? I think Kevin's probably the largest Keenan fan of the group.
The largest?
Well,
biggest,
as the best looking person outside of John and Paul.
As the fattest Keenan resident here, Kevin, what were your opinions of him as a fat, girthy...
Just morbidly obese Keenan fan. Obviously, we knew he was great. We knew he wasn't just good, we knew he was great. But he's never came out and showed that type of standing wrestling control over a top-level no-gi guy. He made Dean Lister, who is... Even if he was focused on an MMA match, Dean Lister walks in and he's still Dean Lister. Dean Lister on his worst day is incredibly hard to stand and grapple with.
With little notice, too. He was preparing for a gi match and Abraham Marte. So to have Dean Lister all of a sudden thrown in no gi, very, very different approach.
I want to ask this over to John. For Dean, did we see a more motivated Dean coming out in the beginning of this match?
I mean, maybe. He said he was... he'd fought Keenan once, and he said he was getting ready for an MMA fight, so he was probably going through a tough camp, and maybe he's in better shape than he normally is. Dean Lister is a huge human being. He's just a big guy.
Is he Kevin Obese?
Very...
Or is it Kevin Obese plus?
Let's not get carried away. He's not that big.
John, talk to us a little bit about the finish.
He got the triangle from the back, which is probably... I think that might be my favorite no-gi technique from the back. I feel like hardly anyone does it or knows about it or thinks it's that valid.
Oh, they will now.
I've seen it work on a very high level before this, so it's just always funny. If I ever show that, if I'm teaching a class, I feel like people kind of roll their eyes like, this is a bullshit maneuver. But then to see Keenan do it on somebody as amazing as Dean Lister, I think now people will start to give it a little more respect. So that was awesome.
So what you're saying is Keenan can really do you a solid by proving more of the concepts you're going to teach in class.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep going, Keenan.
Did anybody have any last moments just on the submissions? I think we can give a quick drop in and mention AJ had a really sick submission, whatever it was. I don't know. I didn't get to see a replay of it.
I knew what it was when it happened, but I can't remember what the finish was.
Well, John, I would give you a high five right now, but I'd have to shoot in on you as I do it. You're welcome, AJ. Don't expect us to not make fun of it. Athletes, if you do it, we're gonna make fun of it. It's just what happened. Gentlemen, closing thoughts from your takes on Polaris. We'll go ahead and start over with Paul.
I was really excited. I had high expectations for the event, and I think it met every one of them, which is rare for a big jiu-jitsu event. It seems like there's more problems and definitely adjustments to cards, especially closer to the event. So when seeing Abraham not be able to make it and some of the other changes, I think we still ended up with a really, really good event. from top to bottom, and I'm excited to see what comes next. So props to all the Scramble and Tatami guys and Jiu Jitsu Style, everybody that put it together. Excellent job.
The event surpassed my expectations significantly. I was impressed with how easily accessible the stream was, how easy it was to keep the stream. I can't emphasize how cool that is, that I didn't have to keep hitting refresh if I went to do the dishes during intermission. It was amazing. And watching Keenan, Gary, AJ, some of these people, even some of the younger ones, like you see Victor Silverio versus Kid Dale. It's a fun, amazing competition. I appreciate the ladies match. I really did. It was amazing. So just overall, I gave it a strong A-. And considering it was their first one, I really didn't expect that. I expected to hear that they had done this a lot. Maybe they just hadn't quite put it on this level. So to hear that it was really just like the first time they'd put something like this together, it's shocking to me. I was really impressed.
Like Kevin, I did not have high expectations, mainly because I didn't really hear much about it because I live in a cave, apparently. But yeah, I didn't hear much about it at all, and I tuned in, and one of the things that I loved about it, just like Kevin said, is that the stream was rock solid. Like, at no time did it stutter for me, did it drop down to, like, 140p or whatever it is. That it just looks terrible, like a lot of other streams do, especially like not to name names, but I don't know what service they used or if it was just some in-home thing, but it was fantastic. The bandwidth on it was amazing, and I think for a first event, I was pretty happy with it. Can't really ask for much more. Big names, money, good stream.
My thanks to you guys for going over this event. I think it was a really fun one. I guess if there's any takeaway from me, it's that, hold on. People of Around the Mat, thank you for tuning in to the analysis portion. Coming up next, we're going to talk with two people who put it together. But first, this short commercial break. Thank you guys. We'll see you in a second.
Do I have to do this? Oh, man. Hi, everyone. I'm here to bring to your attention something important happening in Jiu-Jitsu. Every year, thousands of innocent mats are subjected to uncaring individuals shamelessly stepping on them wearing shoes. My name's Josh Palmer, and I foolishly...
Stupidly
committed this heinous crime.
Why did you do it? Like, how long does it take you to take off your shoes to step onto a mat?
Well, I wasn't really thinking about it.
Who doesn't think about it? How you do jiu-jitsu, right?
I try, yeah.
Okay, so you've stepped onto mats before without shoes, yes?
Absolutely.
And you've heard people get yelled at in jiu-jitsu for wearing shoes, yes?
I've yelled at people for wearing shoes.
Jesus Christ.
I know the suffering it can cause, and I urge you to stop and think. The harm this act inflicts leaves mats with uncertain futures, full of suffering and doubt. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can help stop the madness by simply listening to the Around the Mat podcast once a week.
Yeah, it's more like once every couple months, but go on. Yeah, definitely.
Well, you can help end the abuse and give mats a chance to shine. Save lives. Take off your shoes.
Nick, you very famously, recently, were a commentator at Polaris. How did that go?
You're right, that was really famous. I mean, it was in all the newspapers in England, and people have been
stopping you?
Yeah, paparazzi have been camping outside my my girlfriend's apartment.
It's jiu-jitsu famous, which means a couple thousand guys definitely watched it. Hey guys, rather than just blindly speculating what we think is going to happen to the next Polaris, or even what happened at that Polaris that we just saw, we decided to talk to two of the guys who helped put it together. And joining us today on this call, we have two of our friends, and soon to be yours. We have from Jiu Jitsu Style, CALLUM MEDCRAFT. Did I see it right this time?
It's Callum, but you can call me Colum if you want, it's fine.
Damn it. See, this is why you don't tell me I do something right. so that I can fuck it up during the real time.
Column will do. That's cool, man. Yeah.
All right. And on here, we have from Scramble, Matt Benyon.
Correct.
Oh, I got one right. That's 50%. That's a passing grade here in America. Matt, tell us a little bit about how Polaris came together.
We've wanted to do some kind of event for a long time. We actually we got people to sign up for a newsletter about 2 years ago for people that might be interested in doing like a submission-only event. And nothing ever happened. And we went to Portugal 2 years ago for the Europeans and met up with the guys from Tatami, and they also wanted to do an event. So we kind of decided that you'd only really be able to do it if there was 2 brands, 2 sets of people working on it, 2 pools of resources that we could do it. And then suddenly it was happening.
Let me go ahead and ask this over to Cal. So when do you become involved in all of this? I mean, it sounds great, but if somebody came up and told me, hey, Raf, you want to put this highly stressful thing together, I'd probably say, nah.
Well, I've been quite lucky, actually, because most of it's not really been a stress for me. I've just been really excited about it because the boys they're the ones who've been, sort of taking the risks and really putting it out there. But I think I remember Matt talking to me about it, probably on that Lisbon trip, actually, Matt thinking about it. They first mentioned the idea. And, I think the scene in Europe has grown so quickly, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, and there's such a big community here. It's easy to get around. You turn up at the Europeans and you saw how many fans there were, and I think that as soon as the boys said we want to do this submission only event and we're thinking big names, that was I was very excited from the word go, and I knew it would be great. So I was excited early doors, and I just said, look, anything I can do, I would love to be associated with it, get behind it, and push it. So it's been quite entertaining to see it go from this idea in Lisbon, probably with the boys discussing it over a few beers, and then to what was an amazing event.
Listen to that, listeners. You too can make differences by just drinking beers and talking jiu-jitsu.
That was basically the moral of the story. Drink beer and good things happen. I think.
Technically, it was whiskey.
Matt, I want to ask you, for you, why did you guys decide to call this Polaris? Like, why this of all the names that could possibly be out there? Because when I was explaining it to people, I was just like, oh, I'm going to go watch Polaris. They're like, you're going to go watch the stars? Shut up. No, a jiu-jitsu event.
It was actually Paragon for a long time. We had a logo that I designed with the same logo that it is now. We registered the company and everything. And then I think I put a picture on Instagram with Paragon next to it, and Jeff Glover commented like, Paragon? And we actually had like a few backwards and forwards emails with Jeff and is it Frangina?
Yes.
Technically, we probably could have carried on with it. We're in a different territory. It's a slightly different product, but we thought, we don't want to cause any trouble. But we didn't want to change the logo. So we just wrote down all words that began with P and that had a vaguely, interesting sounding name.
To be fair, it is a better choice than your other options, which were Gracie Barra, Zenith, Atos, which I thought was gonna really fly, but I guess Alliance would have been so freaking good. I'm gonna go ahead and open us up to the guys. Paul, why don't you go ahead and take us to the next section?
So one of the things that we talk a lot about is how rule sets kind of set things up. And I was wondering why you guys, or how you guys went about choosing the different rule set, because we've seen events kind of get make or break based on the rules. And we want to see fans be happy to see a lot of action, but we also don't want to see something super gimmicky that, the true fans would kind of blow off. So when approaching the rules, how did you kind of take the fan experience, the athlete experience, and then the martial arts side kind of all into context and throw it together with what your final decisions were?
Well, we did go through loads of different ideas for rule sets. Like Callum, we had loads of Facebook messages going round and round and round and round for ages. And we had loads of ideas. Like the Eddie Bravo Invitational rule set is really interesting, but I could picture in my head trying to first of all explain it to the judges, and then having the judges explain it to the fighters, and then it all going wrong on the night, and fighters not really knowing, what they're supposed to be doing. We just wanted to remove all possibility of like human error or room for interpretation or anything like that, and just keep it as simple as possible.
Now, some people have criticized other events that end up with a few draws. Your submission rates were pretty high. What do you accredit the amount of submissions to?
Just the athletes, isn't it? You put it there. It could have all been draws, or it could have all been submissions.
Who did the matchmaking? It was a good job.
That for me was the most fun part, actually, because I think it was a bit of a consortium, wasn't it? Really, again, we had like a big sort of Facebook message that was constantly just pinging with a name, question mark, and then someone else would drop another name, and then we met down at Scramble office to talk it through a couple of times, and that was really good fun, actually. Some of the guys were people that were connected with the brand, but guys that you really wanted to see fight again. Yeah, like you say, Mike Fowler, I was really excited to see him compete again. And then it's like against Tellez, it's like, wow, okay, that's going to be really cool. I also, for me as well, I think it was really cool that the first fight of the night was, I'm guessing, two guys that you might not have even heard of over in the States. Max Campos is widely been considered like one of the UK's best kept secrets in a way. He's never got to fight at the Worlds, and
he got a little bit nervous, didn't he?
He did,
because he's normally much more.
Yeah, he's a submission. Yeah. But I think that was also Dara's come on so quick. Another great match in my eyes. It's like we know Dara's really good, a bit heavier, but young black belt, and then Max. But I think that was quite cool to show a little bit of the European-based talent as well. So that was cool.
We want people that might, like, for example, Americans or people from overseas might tune in because there's one or two big names that they recognize, but then hopefully they'll be introduced to the people on the European circuit that are, some of which are absolutely amazing, and they'll get to see amazing matches that they pretty much would never have got the chance to see before.
Well played, guys. Well played. Teaching those people I would never see.
There you go.
A very good strategy.
How important was it to incorporate a ladies match, which I think we all applaud because, first of all, it was a badass match. Second, just there's very hungry female grapplers out there, and it's really fun to see them get rewarded on the higher level. And how did you decide gi or no gi with certain pairings?
Straight from the word go, there was always going to be a women's match, right, Matt? And it's not for me to say, but I think there always will be. I think that it's like you said, the women's matches that I've seen at submission only have probably been, in previous submission only events, have probably been some of the most exciting I've seen, and that's without fail. And then you had Michele Nicolini here in Europe anyway, who is just a submission machine, isn't she? So it was an absolute given. To be honest, I think that was one of a really clever match against Angelica. Just got a black belt, how far she progressed, and what a fight! That was really exciting, exciting stuff. So I'm excited to see what the next matchup. I think it's difficult with the longevity at the moment, just because there's not as big a pool of maybe top level women out there to sort of really mix it up a lot. Like you think, I would love to see Michele fight Mackenzie again or something. But then there's also some really good level sort of unknowns here in Europe now, so that's another other possibilities, I guess, from that perspective. What with the gi and no gi, I'm guessing, Matt, was a lot of it down to sort of just an agreement between the fighters as well, right?
Yeah, bit of discussion between fighters and
awesome. That's actually a really cool way to do it. Let them sort of hash it out. It's like, your lapel chokes blow. I would like to see that. You should televise that discussion next time.
Oh, definitely. The pregame would be great. And you would love to see somebody like Gary go, I didn't bring one. I didn't bring a gi, guys. So I do want to hear a little bit more about that schedule. Like, did you have somebody who just said they'd be open to doing both?
We made the matches beforehand, like by discussing amongst ourselves. Like, obviously we weren't going to put Gary Tonon in a gi. Keenan was supposed to fight in the gi, but And then, yeah, we changed it. He didn't actually have any no-gi stuff with him. So on the Friday before, we had to buy all the uniform and print it and have it delivered to the venue the next day.
What an opportunity for sponsors. Keenan doesn't have anything to wear.
But we had to print his sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
I think because obviously all of us that put it on, like especially Callum, they just know who's good at what. So we just chose who would fight who and in what uniform.
It's funny though, isn't it? You get some guys who just generally don't seem to. You get some guys that generally don't seem to care. They just wanted to be there, didn't they? Like, yep, I want to fight, gi, no gi, anyone. And I'm not talking about these are guys high up the card as well, and then.
Keenan was ready to fight anybody.
Yeah, anyone, and gi, no gi doesn't matter. Whereas there are other guys who you sort of think, I guess their game's more tailored for no gi or gi, whatever. But I don't know. I think again, pats on the back for us that the card was the way it worked out was great. And the matches were pretty perfect. I was really excited about.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah. Cool.
What exactly was the plan going into this? Is it because it's the first one you were thinking this is just going to be like a net loss, or were you looking to make money on pay-per-view, or because you actually had it at a venue where you had spectators? Were you planning on making money at the gate, or how did that work out?
We had like 3 forecasts. One is if it went well, one is if it went, and then the other one was if it failed. And we had to sort of be prepared for the worst. So we all knew going into it, like, if we made money on the first one, it would have been a miracle.
I've been told jiu-jitsu events make money always. It's like a mathematical
100%.
proof.
Very lucrative. Very lucrative. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So you want to get rich, you start doing jiu-jitsu. That's
Yeah.
that's your own thing.
One of the things that I liked the most about the stream is in between fights, you guys actually had content instead of just playing like a highlight or a static image, and the whole thing moved. From a viewer perspective, it was nice because you sign up for one of these events and it cannot be predicted how long a match is going to last. I mean, you guys know how long the max is, but guys like Gary Tonin go out there and finish people pretty quickly. I'm sure you have to take time into consideration. So to have that content from BJJ Hacks, I think did a great job with a lot of the lead up, and then also even like the stuff they've spliced into the event was great.
Yeah, thanks, Hal.
I was really impressed because I had in a previous life a little bit of experience of like live broadcast stuff, and having gone to a number of events that are streamed in the UK on the smaller scale. As soon as I turned up, I mean, the boys had really you looked professional, really professional from behind the scenes. There was at least 3 or 4 screens with people looking at them, so I had every confidence it was all going to be fine. Men looking at screens, it was going to work. So
important looking screens.
Important looking people. Yeah.
One of the things that we lose from the stream is the live experience and to be in the crowd. So what were some of the things that stood out to you guys as promoters? Because I've talked to Gary, I've talked to a few different people that said that it was just absolutely amazing to be there in person and that the crowd was knowledgeable and really, really into it.
Well, for me, it was. I had a little bit of a moment actually, right? You see those videos online of like grooms at weddings just fainting.
Yeah.
I had a real moment where the MC, the guy Tone Anderson from Fokke, he was introducing the fighters, and it was they were running down the steps, and the first fighter that got announced was Dara O'Connell, so who's an Irish fighter, and he obviously brought a lot of guys with him, and they went apeshit.
Make some noise for Dara O'Connell!
And I was there with my camera, and I had a big adrenaline rush, and I was like, "Oh, this is too much for me," and I almost had to like just take a knee for a moment. Otherwise, I'd be one of those guys that's like, "Oh God, Callum's gone. He's fainted. It's too much." So, from my perspective, it was absolutely amazing, and they were really vocal, And there were a few moments as well. I don't know if you saw, Matt, that was quite cool where some of the fighters were interacting a little bit as well. which was quite cool.
I mean, AJ himself looked like he was playing up to the crowd a little.
Oh yeah.
And Gary came down like it was a prize fight or a wrestling fight because he was high-fiving people, but it looked very aggressive. Like, I didn't want to be on the receiving end of that high five he had. It looked like it would have hurt your arm.
They were really pumped up, weren't they? One of the things that really struck me about the event actually was just the fans. So Kit said to me after the event that he'd never had to wait and sign as many autographs or hang around with the fans for as long as he had at Polaris. And then Gary Tonin said to me as well that he'd never heard a crowd quite like that. So I think they're the things to me. I mean, I've not been to anything else, so I don't, like a Metamoris or whatever, but I thought that was really, really cool. It sounds like the fighters really enjoyed it as an experience, which I think is really important as well.
I have a question that I wanted to follow up with here. How does it feel to be put in the conversation with Metamoris? I don't know if that was your guys' intent, but I would say 80% of the posts I saw going into and after this event put Polaris in the same conversation with Metamoris. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Let's go ahead and start with Matt.
It's kind of weird because it was, not so long ago I was awaiting like the next Metamoris. I bought the pay-per-views and, I'm a massive fan of Metamoris. I still am. But when we decided to do an event, there's all kinds of like smaller events that go on in England all the time. And we could have done something like that, not putting them down or anything. They're all doing like amazing jobs for, the grappling community. But we just wanted to do something really big, and the only other people doing that is Metamoris. So, but they're in America, we're in the UK, we're pretty far apart. I think there's enough fans out there, to fuel these kind of events. People want to watch more events, attend more events. Fighters want more ways to make money.
And I think Matt's right. I mean, especially if you look at, people. I'm a fan of MMA as well. If there's an MMA show on one weekend, I'll happily pay for it. If there's one the following weekend, I'll happily pay for it. I don't think people are going to be there going, "Oh, are you going to support Metamoris or Polaris?" You know what I mean? I think it's all great. It's all good. It was just a great experience. But especially like I say for Europe, I guess it was just the first of its kind. And I think it's really cool that people over in the States or around the world are talking about it. Because rightly so. But yes.
And congratulations to you guys, because I still don't know how much money I paid for it. It had that weird sign. And I just said, take it from my bank account. I don't know. So congratulations.
It is difficult to figure it out. It is difficult.
I just wasn't going to bother learning it.
Just for reference, if you start typing it into Google, it'll actually finish it before you've even finished typing. It'll tell you.
Oh, shut up, Matt. Nobody asked.
Don't condescend us from England, all right?
Look, this fancy metric system just figures itself out. Oh, look. This is me typing. I want to ask this, and I want the guys actually to join me in a nice round of applause very quick for having a stream that worked. So congratulations, you guys. Not just worked, but actually worked very well. I actually didn't have any problems with that. Was that a concern for you guys when you were putting this together? Because I know when somebody says stream in Jiu-Jitsu, everybody takes a deep breath and gets really nervous.
Yeah. It was
Copropodio.
Huge. Yeah. I've watched them. I've seen the disasters.
Bits and pieces. Yeah.
I remember. I think it was 2 Metamorises ago. They were like 2 minutes late with starting up the stream, and their Facebook wall was just like people, freaking out. It was really scary. The whole stream thing was really scary. We had a couple of problems. It was mostly to do with logging in and stuff. I think the actual quality of the stream was really good.
And Matt, were you able to enjoy it, or were you just so on top of having to deal with a million little fires that you didn't really even get to watch?
I was lucky in a way because even up until, the doors opened at 6 o'clock, people started walking in. Even up until 6 o'clock, we were still frantically running around figuring out who was going to do what. And then I was lucky enough to get the job of I don't even know what it's called. I was standing in front of the stage, and I had like show caller in my ear telling me when the referee could come on, when the match could start, when the MC could speak, all of that stuff. So I was standing right in front of the stage, so I could see, like, I could hear the crowd, I could see the fight. So I was quite lucky to see it. Yeah, it was the same as Callum. It was quite overwhelming at a few points. Yeah, now, it's like a European crowd has a reputation for making a lot of noise. So
we started to find out that Keenan's opponent wasn't going to maybe be able to make it. Talk to us about the chaos of that, because it was an impressive quick turnaround, and we all started to hear, maybe Abraham might not be able to make it, which puts some of the things into jeopardy. And obviously, if you can have Keenan fight, you'd like to.
I was telling people I was in like a higher state of consciousness for about 2 weeks. It was like, honestly, it was nothing I've ever experienced. I was waking up first thing in the morning on my phone till like midnight every single day for 2 weeks. And it just became this weird, like, constant anxiety kind of thing. So when that happened, that was literally just another thing.
Interesting.
Okay, Dean Lister's out. Yep, okay, fine. Okay, well, let's get...
And that happened a lot, actually, didn't it? I was thinking, so we had like a group going on Facebook as well, didn't we, Matt? And
yeah,
it did feel like every moment where it was like, okay, don't worry, cool, we got it sorted, boom, that's going to be a great match. It would just be, you'd literally just drop me a message like, Lister, out. You're like,
Wow.
Okay, or whatever. But sorry, I'm amazed it turned out as well as it did,
So you sort of approached it like a jiu-jitsu match. You guys just kind of rode the wave and kept making small adjustments.
Didn't tap out. Yeah.
And didn't tap out.
Are you saying they had to scramble?
So there's plans for another event, and follow-up question to that. How will you inevitably screw up the second event?
How will we rescue it, you mean?
Oh, sure, yeah, whatever you want to call it. I just want to know, so that way when I have to make fun of you the next time, I just know exactly where the joke needs to go.
Think they're going to come back to this?
Yeah. In fact, mate, I've got to go. Yeah, let's get it.
It cost me $150. Did you know that's what 15E meant? I didn't.
What can we know about the second one coming up?
It's going to be later on in the year, and there'll be hopefully some people coming back, and some completely new faces. More women.
Whoa, hey. Let's just say, with one event, you've already tied the amount of women's matches for Metamoris. You guys are just going for extra credit there. That's really weird. I think we're excited to see another event. I do have to ask, though, one thing that I saw that was a consistent note, and I do want to know if it is something you guys are looking to maybe for the next version, will there be like an instant replay potentially going forward? Because I know that was something a lot of people missed. Because, as you guys know, as practitioners and people who just love the sport, we love seeing details. Jiu-Jitsu folks love watching it, and when they just see it once, they're looking at each other and going, how'd he do it? Like, I don't think people knew exactly how AJ ended up landing his submission or what it was specifically.
No.
And that was something that we were talking about. But are there plans to maybe do an instant replay, or can you just have the athletes go redo it? Because it'd be great if they just show you how they did it afterwards. We'd be up for that too.
No, it definitely will be. Like, whatever you looked at the stream and thought of things that you could improve, we've looked at it and thought of, everything that we can do to make it better. Like, replays is just a case of paying more money to get another bit of technology, and but we can reconfigure. It's probably going to be in the same place as well.
Sick.
So we can reconfigure the hall. We might be able to get a screen or all that stuff.
I also want to interject too, as someone that has tried to look into live streaming events as well. Just the box that does instant replay, I don't think people realize, like, that thing. I was looking to maybe buy one for my home just for my breakdowns that I do, and it's like $20,000 or something like that for the cheap model. So like they're super expensive. It's not just some like common thing that you can just go pick up.
I'm glad you understand that.
Replays next time.
I will say about both of these gentlemen is that at heart they are grappling fans and grapplers themselves, and I think that makes a huge difference, and you see it permeate through every part of the event, because I think they're fans first, and when they come from that perspective, everybody else is going to recognize that and see it. And that's why I supported the event as much as I did, because I know how much their heart was into it. And I'm just stoked that it came out as well as it did.
Paul, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, Paul, they're still with us. You're talking like they're dead. These two guys, let me tell you a few things about them. They were
Lifting
good
them
people.
up onto the pedestal.
Paul also illegally pirated the stream, so
I did not. And I will say I was the first person on Reddit to talk shit to the person who was putting it up there. So
Thanks, man.
Good man, Paul.
He really was. It is really entertaining to watch Paul lay into these kids with his, like, don't download, kids. It's the funniest old man thing. But it's like, I want to get behind Paul every time and upvote every one of those things, but it literally sounds like he's yelling at the kids to get off his lawn. So it takes me a second to really, really get behind the message.
real quick, is there a dream match if you guys could add for either a headliner or anywhere on the card for Polaris 2?
Yes.
Would you like to share what that might be?
Okay, there's big dream matches, you know, like with big names like, I don't know, Keenan, people like that. But then we've had some ideas, some people in Japan that, you know, we know through Scramble or through our friends there, that I think people would be pretty excited to see. Yeah.
Imanari, Gary Tonin, please. Just
Well,
we can get an orthopedic surgeon to sponsor it.
hey, yeah, you're not far from that there.
I think another cool thing worth, I hope Matt doesn't mind me saying as well, I think the boys have even had sort of well-known competitors contact them and say, that looked great, we want to fight. So I mean, I think that means a lot as well, you know. So Matt's messaging me going, such and such has got in touch, he wants to fight, and I'm like, that's so surreal, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm very happy for you, but I gotta let you know, when you start saying such and such and using vague names, I just don't want to know anymore, because it's just like, oh, this great match that we've been talking about forever that we might do. Oh yeah, if we do that, that'd be cool.
As you guys transition forward, have you considered expanding the content that goes in between the matches?
Yeah, definitely. We'll try and fill it with content. And we've got Howell from BJJ Hacks that we work with.
Yeah.
You know, Jiu Jitsu Style could put something together, a video interview with somebody. And we didn't, you know, basically the only sponsors was Scramble, Tatami, and Made for Fighters, which is a British wholesaler. Mm-hmm. But everybody that had the ads had an amazing response, like separate from Polaris. Yeah. Made for Fighters said they doubled the business that they normally do.
For me, I just wanted to end on this. Very proud of the stuff that you guys put together. I really, really like it. I just have a warning, which is, in the UK, you guys have a thing with your TV shows where you just do like 6 episodes and you're done. So, like, is that the plan for this? Because, like, 1 season of this isn't enough.
Ricky Gervais stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't just do 3 of these and be like, well, guys, that was the series finale.
See you in 3 years.
Oh, you never know.
But I do want to congratulate you guys on behalf of the community. I do know there are a lot of people who really enjoyed your event, and we look forward to talking about the next one. And, you know, you say a little bit about patting yourselves on the back, but it is well earned. And we look forward to covering the next one, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. It's been good fun. I haven't even said to you yet, Matt, actually, even in the UK, so obviously we've got some big names here. I train in Roger Gracie's in London, and he's just got back from Brazil. And he was at the academy yesterday, and he went to me, did you go to this event? I was like, there's me thinking, what's he on about? And I was like, oh, Polaris. He was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. He was like, was it good? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I heard it was good. And I was like, so that's a seal of approval from Roger.
Yeah, and which from Roger, that's speaking volumes.
Yeah. Surprised he got so emotional.
That's it.
Yeah.